They say the ocean doesn't care who you are. Beginner, veteran, fearless, terrified. It will test every bolt, every decision, every mistake you've ever made. Out there, far past the sight of land, small boats aren't just cute little cruisers. They become your entire world, your shelter, your lifeline, and sometimes the only thing standing between you and a story that ends in silence. And yet, a small group of sailors has proven something extraordinary. You don't need a massive 45-footer or a 6-figure blue water yacht to cross oceans. You don't need decades of experience. You don't even need a crew. You just need the right boat. Today, you're about to discover the top 3 small sailboats you can safely sail solo around the world, even as a beginner. 3 legends. 3 designs that have crossed oceans, survived storms that crushed bigger yachts, and carried everyday sailors to places they once believed were impossible. But be warned, by the end of this video, you may find yourself questioning every assumption you've ever had about size, safety, and what a beginner is truly capable of when the right boat is beneath their feet. 3rd place, Bristol Channel Cutter 28. There are boats that earn respect, boats that earn admiration, and then there are boats that earn fearless loyalty. The Bristol Channel Cutter 28 belongs to that last category, a cult icon designed not to look pretty at anchor, not to impress marina crowds, but to survive, to endure, to take a single sailor across oceans with the stubborn determination of a creature that simply refuses to die. And when you look closely at what Lyle Hess created, you begin to understand why sailors speak about the BCC-28 the way mountaineers talk about Everest, with a mixture of awe, reverence, and quiet gratitude for every mile traveled in its presence. The first thing you notice about the Bristol Channel Cutter is that it doesn't apologize for its size. 28 feet sounds small, almost fragile, almost too humble for the scale of a circumnavigation. But everything about this boat seems to laugh at the assumptions people make about length. It carries the bulk, the freeboard, the displacement, and the structural philosophy of a vessel 10 feet longer. The hull is thick, overbuilt, some would say, layered with a mindset that comes from an era when designers assumed the sea wanted to kill you, and that your boat needed to be prepared for that reality. Look at its bow, proud, heavy, a cutter bow that slices the ocean rather than bouncing across it. Look at its stern, traditional, full-bodied, built to maintain control when the wind howls in from the wrong direction. Look at its keel, a full keel that provides directional stability so strong that many sailors describe the feeling as being locked onto rails. When you're alone, far offshore, with sleep coming in fractured microdoses, that kind of tracking isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. But what really transforms the Bristol Channel Cutter into something almost mythic is the sensation it gives its owner. Many sailors report that the boat feels alive, as if it understands the sea. They say that when the weather turns vicious and the waves begin stacking like moving mountains, the BCC doesn't fight the ocean, it works with it. It has a rhythm, a cadence, a strange harmony with motion. You don't command it, you collaborate with it. And for a beginner sailor attempting something as massive as a solo circumnavigation, that sense of partnership can mean everything. The interior of the Bristol Channel Cutter reflects the same philosophy, compact but extraordinarily functional. Every inch matters, every cabinet has purpose, every beam of wood seems carved by someone who believed craftsmanship was a kind of prayer. It's tight, yes, but safe. It feels like a shelter, not a compromise. And for the beginner who has never been alone in the pitch-black void of an offshore night, where the sea disappears beneath the hull and the wind whispers things you wish you couldn't hear, the BCC's interior becomes a psychological anchor. Then there's the rig, a powerful cutter rig that gives you options, real options. Heavy winds? Roll in the headsail, reef the main early, drop the staysail last, because it'll keep the bow pulling. Light winds? Shake it out, spread canvas, let the boat move. This flexibility is essential for beginners who don't yet have the instincts of experienced circumnavigators. The boat forgives, it absorbs mistakes, it buys time, it gives warnings, it does not punish the sailor for learning in real time. And then come the stories. Sailors who cross the Pacific, the Atlantic, entire hemispheres in a BCC-28, often alone, often with nothing more than determination, basic tools, and a boat that simply would not quit. Hurricanes avoided by inches. Rogue seas survived, knockdowns endured without structural failure. Boats that limped home after collisions that would have destroyed lighter, thinner-hulled yachts. The Bristol Channel cutter has earned a reputation not by marketing, but by survival. And that's why, even for beginners, the BCC-28 stands tall on this list. Because when you're sailing solo around the world, you don't just need performance, you don't just need comfort, you don't just need a boat that sails well. You need a boat that stays with you, a boat that forgives, a boat that survives the things you can't predict. The Bristol Channel Cutter 28 is exactly that. And for a sailor attempting their first big dream, whether crossing the Pacific, rounding Cape Horn, or simply proving to themselves that they can chase a horizon and catch it, the BCC 28 might just be the safest, strongest, most loyal companion they could ever ask for. Second place, Alberg 30. There is something almost mystical about the Alberg 30. At first glance, it doesn't shout strength the way the Bristol Channel Cutter does. It doesn't look intimidating, overbuilt, or heavy enough to cross the planet. Instead, it appears graceful, almost modest, a narrow, beautifully balanced, full-keel cruiser from another era. But anyone who underestimates this boat quickly learns a hard truth. The Alberg 30 is one of the toughest, most proven small ocean sailboats ever created, and it has earned that reputation by quietly doing what many sailors only dream of, circumnavigating the globe again and again, often with sailors who were far from experts when they began. Designed by Carl Alberg in the early 1960s, the Alberg 30 was born during a time when simplicity and seaworthiness were considered virtues, not shortcomings. Alberg believed that a small boat should behave like a much larger one in heavy seas, and that the key to safety wasn't complexity, it was balance, stability, and predictability. The result of that philosophy is a boat that feels as if it were carved from a single piece of intention. Narrow beam, long overhangs, a full keel that runs deep and directional, and a hull form that softens motion rather than amplifying it. For a beginner sailor dreaming of a solo circumnavigation, this matters more than most people realize. Heavy seas are terrifying enough when you have crew. When you're alone, everything becomes magnified. The sound of the waves, the angle of the heel, the movement underfoot. Unpredictable motion can break your confidence long before it breaks the boat. But the Alberg 30 has a gentle, honest motion that sailors constantly describe as trustworthy, calming, and forgiving. This is not a boat that tries to fight the ocean. It flows with it. One of the most remarkable aspects of this little yacht is its track record. Over the decades, the Alberg 30 has completed numerous ocean crossings and full circumnavigations, many of them solo. Some were done with minimal experience. Some were done on older boats bought cheaply by dreamers who believed the ocean would teach them what they needed to know. And yet again and again, the Alberg 30 brought them home. There are countless stories of sailors who pushed their boats well beyond what modern sailors would consider reasonable, crossing oceans with outdated gear, jury-rigged equipment, and budgets that wouldn't cover bottom paint on a larger yacht. And still, the Alberg 30 endured. Part of this resilience comes from the boat's simplicity. Beginners often fear complexity more than storms, and with good reason. The more systems you have, the more things can break. The more things can break, the more likely you end up drifting helplessly in the middle of the ocean, praying your emergency tiller holds. But the Alberg 30 is nearly minimalist in its systems. No unnecessary hydraulics, no complicated electronics required, no exotic rigging setups. Everything is straightforward, serviceable, and easy to repair even alone in the cockpit with tools you kept in a rusty coffee can. The rig, a simple and reliable masthead sloop, is especially appealing to solo sailors. Reefing early is easy. Balancing the sails is intuitive. The boat can carry sails surprisingly well for its size, but it also handles being deeply reefed without complaint. Beginners often discover something surprising. The Alberg 30 doesn't punish caution. Some boats fight you when you shorten sail too early. Not this one. It simply settles into a comfortable, steady rhythm that feels as if someone older and wiser has taken the tiller for a while. Then there's the interior. Yes, it's small. No one pretends otherwise. But it is solid, classic, and surprisingly adaptable. Many solo sailors refit the inside to create a secure sea berth, a simple galley, and an efficient navigation station. It becomes less of a home and more of a refuge, a tiny cabin where everything is within reach, everything has purpose, and everything can be trusted. In the middle of the night, while the boat surges through swells you can't see but can feel in your bones, this kind of environment matters more than aesthetics. The full keel plays another vital role in making the Alberg 30 ideal for beginners tackling solo ocean passages. It tracks with confidence, giving the helmsman, or the windvane, a stable, predictable trajectory. Beginners often make small steering mistakes, especially when exhausted, but the Alberg 30 tends to absorb those errors rather than amplify them. It has directional honesty. It holds course. It keeps its composure even when its captain begins to lose theirs. All these qualities combine into something rare, a small sailboat that genuinely increases the safety margin for sailors who are still learning. There are faster boats, more spacious boats, and more modern boats, but very few that offer the same balance of simplicity, strength, and proven ocean performance in such a compact package, and even fewer that have carried so many ordinary people through such extraordinary journeys. This is why the Alberg 30 earns second place on this list. Not because it is flashy or modern, but because it has already changed the lives of countless sailors, beginners included, who trusted it with their biggest dream, to circle the planet alone, guided only by wind, determination, and a boat that has already proven what small yachts are truly capable of. The first place, Baba 30. There are boats that people admire, boats that people respect, and then there are boats that people trust with their lives. The Baba 30 belongs firmly in that last category, not because of marketing, not because of modern features or exotic technology, but because of something far more difficult to earn. A reputation built by sailors who survived the worst the ocean could throw at them. Designed by Robert Perry and built by the legendary Ting Yacht Building in Taiwan, the Baba 30 is one of those rare small cruisers that seems to transcend its size. At 30 feet, it technically fits into the compact category, but nothing about the boat feels small. Not its displacement, not its interior, not its presence on the water, and certainly not its blue water track record. If anything, the Baba 30 feels like a 40-footer condensed into a tighter, tougher, more determined package. A true world cruiser for sailors who want a boat that takes care of them rather than the other way around. What makes the Baba 30 stand apart begins with its soul, the unmistakable blend of traditional craftsmanship and no-compromise engineering. You don't just look at a Baba 30, you feel it. The thick, hand-laid fiberglass hull, the heavily constructed full keel, the oversized rigging, the teak that seems to have been shaped with reverence rather than efficiency. This is not a production boat built as cheaply and quickly as possible. It is a boat built by craftsmen who believed they were creating something that would outlive them, and many of these boats actually have. And that overbuilt nature is exactly why beginners can trust it. When you sail solo, especially around the world, you lose the luxury of having extra hands to help you in a crisis. You can't rely on a crewmate to grab a line, reduce sail, pump the bilge, or crawl into the cockpit locker to tighten a bolt. The boat has to shoulder far more responsibility, structural, mechanical, even emotional. And the Baba 30 does this better than almost any other small cruiser on the planet. One of the most defining characteristics of the Baba 30 is its motion. Every experienced offshore sailor knows that motion is everything. A boat that pounds or slams or rolls violently can exhaust a sailor long before the storm does, but the Baba 30 has a famously gentle, steady, almost heavy motion through waves, the kind that lets you cook, sleep or repair gear without being thrown across the cabin. This isn't just comfort, it's safety. A rested sailor makes better decisions, and better decisions keep the boat moving and the sailor alive. The cockpit, small and deep, is another reason the Baba 30 excels offshore. Beginners often assume a larger cockpit is better because it feels spacious. In reality, a large cockpit is a liability in heavy seas. It can fill with water, push the boat off course, or even contribute to a capsize. But the Baba 30's cockpit is designed to protect the sailor, keep water out, and maintain control even when the ocean begins to boil. When you're alone and a wave breaks over the stern at 3 a.m., you want a cockpit like this, not a floating swimming pool. Inside, the Baba 30 continues to offer what solo sailors need most: security, organization, and emotional refuge. The interior feels warm and timeless, built with thick teak and clever use of space. It is compact, yes, but remarkably functional. There are handholds everywhere. The galley is braced for cooking underway. The sea berths are perfect for long passages. And when the sun sets and the cabin glows in lamplight, the boat feels less like a vessel and more like a shelter against the entire world. The rig, typically a cutter setup, is another advantage for solo sailors. It offers options, balance, and excellent sail control without requiring brute strength or acrobatics on deck. Reefing early becomes simple. Riding out strong winds becomes manageable. And perhaps most importantly, beginners gain a level of confidence that only comes from a boat that responds predictably, forgivingly, and honestly to every adjustment. And then there are the stories. The Baba 30 has crossed the Pacific countless times, braved typhoons, rounded continents, and carried both seasoned sailors and nervous first-timers across oceans they never believed they had the courage to face. The boat's reputation wasn't earned through theory, it was earned through survival. Again and again, Baba 30 owners report that the boat stayed strong when gear broke, when weather turned against them, when exhaustion clouded their judgment, or when the ocean forced them to confront their limitations. This, ultimately, is why the Baba 30 earns the top place on this list. It is not the fastest small cruiser, it is not the cheapest, it is not the easiest to find. But when you are alone in the middle of the ocean and the world shrinks to 30 feet of fiberglass and determination, the Baba 30 becomes something rare. A boat that is stronger than your fears. For beginners dreaming of their first solo circumnavigation, this is the boat that won't just take them around the world, it will bring them home. In the end, when you strip away all the romanticism, the adventure, the heroic images of sails silhouetted against a burning sunset, solo sailing around the world comes down to one simple truth. Your boat becomes your entire universe. It becomes your shelter, your partner, your defender, your final line of resistance against an ocean that does not care how skilled you are, how brave you feel, or how much you dream. And that's why choosing the right small sailboat isn't just a question of preference, it's a question of survival. Throughout this journey, we explored 3 of the greatest small blue water sailboats ever designed: the mighty Bristol Channel Cutter 28, the legendary Alberg 30, and the indomitable Baba 30. Each of them earned its place not through advertising hype or modern conveniences, but through decades of real-world ocean miles, often in the hands of sailors who were learning as they went, alone, tired, hopeful, and sometimes afraid. These boats became companions, guardians, and teachers, shaping ordinary sailors into extraordinary navigators because they offered something no piece of technology can replicate: unwavering trust. What makes these 3 boats so special isn't just their construction, their keels, or their rigs, though all of those matter. What sets them apart is the relationship they form with the sailor. When you sail solo, especially as a beginner, You're not just choosing a machine. You're choosing the one thing standing between you and 1,000 miles of water in every direction. The ocean does not permit mistakes. It does not give second chances. But a good boat, a truly good boat, can save you even from yourself. It forgives your hesitation, absorbs your errors, and keeps going even when you're exhausted, overwhelmed, or uncertain. The Bristol Channel Cutter 28 offers strength so overwhelming that even the worst storms become survivable challenges. It turns fear into determination. It turns chaos into rhythm. For beginners, this is priceless. When you're alone in winds that howl like the sky is tearing open, knowing that your boat has been through worse than this and come out on the other side gives you a kind of courage you didn't know you possessed. The Alberg 30, with its elegant simplicity and timeless design, does something different. It teaches you. It shows you how a well-balanced hull, a forgiving rig, and a stable full keel can turn fear into understanding. Beginners don't just survive on an Alberg 30, they grow. They learn to read the sea, to feel the boat, to trust the wind. It has carried dreamers across oceans for decades because it does not demand perfection. It simply requires respect. And then the Baba 30, the crown of this list, the small yacht that behaves like a fortress carved from the very idea of seaworthiness. Its thick hull, deep cockpit, cutter rig, and gentle motion through heavy seas aren't just features, they are promises. Promises that when the storm builds, when fatigue settles into your bones, when loneliness presses against your mind like the weight of the sky, the boat will remain steady. Many sailors step into their Baba 30 unsure whether they are ready for the ocean. But somewhere along the way, often in the middle of a long night, when the wind sings through the rigging and the stars burn cold above the mast, they realize something profound. The Baba was ready for them all along. What ties these three boats together? What makes them perfect for beginners daring to attempt a solo circumnavigation is not that they make the journey easy. Nothing about sailing around the world alone is easy. It is a test of patience, resilience, humility, and faith. But these boats expand the margin of safety. They widen the boundaries of what is possible. They reduce risk not by avoiding danger, but by meeting it with strength, grace, and reliability. And in the vast, lonely immensity of the open sea, that difference can mean everything. If you are watching this video because you dream of leaving the marina behind, of feeling the bow lift into the swell as land disappears behind you, then take this to heart. You do not need a big boat to chase a big dream. You do not need decades of experience. You do not need perfect navigation skills or flawless technique. What you need is preparation, courage, and a boat you can trust. The ocean will teach you the rest. Whether your heart leans toward the legendary BCC 28, the proven Alberg 30, or the unshakable Baba 30, what truly matters is that you choose the boat that makes you feel not invincible, but capable. The boat that turns fear into awareness. The boat that makes the impossible feel like the first step of a long-awaited journey. Because one day, maybe sooner than you think, you will stand alone at the helm, looking out at a horizon that stretches farther than your imagination ever has. And in that moment, with the sails drawing cleanly and the world opening before you, you'll understand why sailors continue to bet their lives on small boats like these, and why the greatest adventures often begin on vessels no longer than a city bus. Your dream is real, your path is clear, and the right small sailboat will take you farther than you ever believed possible.